First thing, and to me is the most critical, let the congregation know and make sure that the pastor nominating committee knows this is a time-consuming process. It is not done quickly. You don't want to rush and find the wrong candidate. You don't want to rush and find the wrong people on the PNC. This is going to take time.
It's normal to be uneasy when your church is in transition. That's a very normal and healthy response. But the pastor's not really in charge, right? It's the Church of Jesus Christ. It's God's church. God has not left. God is not taking a different call. God is still there with our congregations, walking alongside them, present in the building, outside of the building. And God is ultimately at work in this transition. And so I hope our churches can remember that.
If a church is looking for next steps, or if a church is looking for what's after next steps, I think the opportunity that comes in there, the joy, again, the mix of emotions that comes in doing life together and being the church, that's what we do. And so following the steps in this process, working with COM, being able to reach out and figure out ways that you can make this season of transition as full and as much of a gift as it can be to a congregation is where it gives me joy and hope for the future of the church, capital C, and for the Presbyterian Church in particular.
Congregations need to be very honest with themselves and with all the candidates. The one thing that I share with my PNC as I'm training them is that pastors talk. We talk to each other across the country, right next door. We are talking a lot about congregations. So it really gets into some really tight and tough situations and congregations when a congregation's PNC is not as truthful and honest about the life and ministry of that church. Just being honest. Admit their struggles, admit that we're working on those struggles, and a candidate will be impressed that they will be part of that process of healing.
God is preparing someone for them. I don't know what that looks like. It may be that a church is moving from a full-time installed person to a part-time temporary contract relationship with the pastor. That's okay too. God's still at work in those situations. If you can't have what you've always had, it doesn't mean that you're still not a healthy, functional, viable church who has great work to do in your community. So just remembering that this is God's church and God's at work, and change doesn't mean bad, right? Change doesn't mean we're doomed. Change means something new is coming, and that can be life-giving and exciting. More importantly, how does that continue to help us proclaim the gospel and the good news of God's love and grace and mercy to your community?
For the PNC that has already been elected, please stay very prayerful. I know that's kind of like a natural thing that we say for people who are of faith, but it actually is imperative that the PNC continues to pray for this candidate and pray for you all while in that process. Pray for the church, pray for everyone, but in particular, pray for that candidate and pray for you all in this process. It will keep y'all together in a very holistic way and a very humbling way that's gonna move this process and be very successful for everyone involved.